Hey Heather, what comes to mind when you think of America? That's right, freedom! And speaking of freedom, you can get this lighted flagpole with the flag and any mount you choose by clicking the link in the description of this video using code FREEDOM at checkout to get 10% off. The offer is valid June 15th to June 20th, 2021, so go get one. So if you haven't figured it out by now, today we're going to install this lighted flagpole mount by Ciro3d on my buddy Shane's 2015 Street Glide. It's a pretty straightforward install. It is a little bit involved, but it definitely looks cool when it's done, as you can see here. Stick around later in the video, we'll show you what it looks like in the dark. And at the end of the video, I'll give you a quick review of my first impression of installing it and a little bit of the quality of the product. All right, real quick before we get started, I'll give you a quick rundown on what's in the box. You have your colored instructions that Ciro always sends. We've got some wire ties, a couple Allen wrenches, some wiring connectors. We have a switch if you want to use a switch with it, and some heat shrink. And then of course we have the flag itself. Look at that thing, that's cool. And then the one constant we all know and love in every box we get ever, some silica gel. This is what the flag looks like. It's chrome, comes with the American flag, and then it's just a 1/4 on the bottom. This one, of course, is going to be the antenna mount on a 2015 Street Glide. They also make a mount that you can mount it on your tour pack rack. So you can use the same flag for whichever mount you decide to use. So the first thing we're going to do is throw the antenna mount on. And of course the antenna is over here on this bike. There's a dummy plug, as you can see here. So that's where we're going to be putting the flag. That way he can still use his antenna as needed. And it's a little more symmetrical that way. And yeah, I know this looks a little cheesy, but it's all I have right now. I'm working on getting a rolling toolbox in here maybe. That can be kind of used as my workbench, but a couple sawhorses and an old shelf that I never ended up using in the other garage, and this works decent, I guess. As with most things, first thing we're gonna do is pull off the saddlebag. This plug just pops out from the back like this. All right, this is pretty much the easiest part of the whole thing. That's going to go on like that, and then this tab just sits on the front side of that support brace. Then you're going to take your stainless steel button head screw with a stainless steel washer. See if I can drop it. Put it in. Then you'll take your nylon nut and put it on the back side. Then just a 7/16 wrench and your provided Allen key. And it should tighten right up. I have a gear wrench on here, which makes things a little bit easier. All right, centered itself really well there. All right, so this is what it looks like with the mount installed from the top. And I will stop real quick. If I was to do this again, I would go get a grommet like the antenna side has, and I'd put that grommet over here. I'm guessing you could get those from a Harley dealer, and that way they would be symmetrical. Okay, next up is the flag install. You're just gonna take your socket head cap screw, put your lock washer on it, put your flat washer on it. I'm gonna use blue Loctite. The reason I'm using blue is it's a medium strength. You won't need heat to get it back off, but it is strong enough to just kind of hold it there. You know, if you ride a Harley, you know how it is. Everything just kind of loosens up over time. A little different camera angle here because of the lighting. I also had to close the door, and it's about 400 degrees in the garage. I know this isn't the best angle, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You just put the bolt up through the bottom. You can put a 1/2-inch wrench on the flag mast itself. Okay, I know I'm cheating a little bit, but if you have one of these, use it. The Allen key's a little tricky to get in there. It's just kind of a tight area with the fender and everything there. When it starts to get snug, just put your wrench on the back side, and you can kind of hold it and line everything up that way before you go completely tight with it, which is 12 foot-pounds. And I don't have a small enough torque wrench to do that, so I'm just going to go by feel. I'm just going to snug it up really good. It's got the Loctite on there, so we should be good. I've got it pointing straight ahead, as you can see here, because I'm super anal like that. And don't worry, eventually this will, as you're riding, you know, it'll fly in the wind. Old Glory will fly in the wind. Okay, so the only thing we have left, since it's mounted now, is to wire it up. If anybody wants to fund an air conditioner for my garage, I will not say no. It is finally hot. It's hot. I'm sweating. So I had to pull the hair back. I'm not balding yet, but you know, it's probably coming. Anyway, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna yank the seat off and the side cover, and that way we can access our wiring options. There's a couple different ways to wire this, depending on what you wanna do. I'll kind of run through both of them a little bit. I'm gonna try to decide what I want exactly, but whatever I don't do, I'll try to explain as best as I can. All right, now that the flagpole is installed, we're gonna tie the wires up, get those out of the way. I'll show you kind of how I do that, and then we'll get to wiring it. These newer bikes works really good to get these wires up and out of the way. They have these slotted holes here you can use to put your zip tie in. Keeps everything out of the way from the saddlebag and the wheel and everything. Go behind the shock. Then I'm going to bring it behind this bar, and then we can kind of come up. I actually think I'm going to zip tie it to this bar. If that gets in the way, we can change it later, but for now it seems like a good idea. All I'm kind of doing is just making sure there's no sharp things that it's rubbing on or anything that could wear through the wire. Okay, just so you guys know how much I love you. This bike has this luggage rack on it, right? Well, it's a lighted luggage rack. It's got a tail light and a brake light in it. So I was kind of the wiring. I mean, obviously someone's been in here before. It's got a tuner on it. It's got some other, you know, it's got the tuner cables under here. So things have been done in here. But that luggage rack has a Y connector on it, right? Since not everybody has that Y connector, I wanted to kind of go back to stock to show you guys what this should look like on a bone stock bike. So, under your seat, front of the bike's here, this black plug is what runs your taillights. And it's referenced in the Ciro instructions that the dark blue wire is the wire you generally tap into, but in order to make sure that's the case, because you know Harley could change things depending on the year, we're going to put a test light on this and see what does what, and then we can know for sure what wire to tap into. And then when I do tap the wire, I'm going to probably tap into this spare harness that goes to the luggage rack, just for ease of use in my situation. But in your situation, you're going to want to probably tap on I always like to tap on the back side of the plug, because obviously this comes from the front side generally comes from the fuse box and stuff. So I try to go in between the light and the plug if you can, which should be this, but we'll find out here in a second when I turn the test light on. Okay, if you don't have a test light, this is what a test light looks like. All you do is it's got a light bulb in it, a 12-volt light bulb in it, and you put one side to ground, the other side to power, and the light turns on when you have a full circuit, right? I'm going to pull the ECM out here. It's just kind of clipped in with 2 clips, just to kind of get it out of the way and show you guys how this works for sure. Normally they come with a little alligator clip on the end here. Mine broke off because that's really old. I think I stole this from my dad way back in the day. But I'm just going to put the wire end on the negative battery terminal, which is the black if you don't mess around with electricity. 12-volt power sources very often. And then this end I'm going to put on the positive battery. And hopefully the camera will pick it up. You can see it turns on and off as it gets full power, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this black plug and find out which wire we want to tap into for just the tail lights. That way it doesn't come on only when the brake lights are hit. It stays on when the key's on. I called Shane. He didn't care how I hooked it up. He said whatever's easier for you. I was originally going to do the switch, but I wasn't sure where he'd want the switch, and he rides 2-up once in a while, so I decided I'm just going to tap into the tail lights, and then later, if he wants me to, I think what I would probably do is run the wire all the way up to the front under the fairing and maybe buy another switch for up there and kind of make it on the dash. But that's a little more involved than what I'm going to go to in this video. If we decide to do that in the future, I'll definitely film it for you guys and show you what I do. But for now, we're just going to tap into the tail lights, and that way the flag light will come on whenever he has the key on. So he doesn't have to worry about turning it on and off, and it's always going. And it's a beautiful light, so he's not going to mind it. These plugs are just stuck in with a little plastic deal. They'll pull right out. Okay, the back side is actually the side that has the pins on it. So I stand corrected on the bike. This side, the back portion of the plug is what comes off the fuse block. So that actually makes it easier for us to test it, you know, with the male sides. So we're gonna ground out our test light. If you can find a screw to wrap it around, it makes it a lot easier. It frees up one hand. We'll see how that holds. If yours has an alligator clip on it like this one's supposed to, it's not an issue. Okay, so as you can see here, there's a dark blue wire, but there's actually 3 dark blue wires on here, 4. But some of them have stripes. So we'll go from the top. We got a red with a yellow wire. We have looks like a dark blue with a black in the middle. And then this one here looks like dark blue. Then on the bottom side, we have a black, which is going to be ground. We have a blue with a purple and a blue with an orange. The only wire I see that's just solid blue without a stripe is this one here, opposite of this red with a yellow stripe. So I'm going to put my test lead on the corresponding pin to that one. See if I can get this in the camera view. Okay, so that is the dark blue wire, and that should go to the tail light. Okay, so now that we know what wire we're dealing with, I'm going to put the ECM back in place. Like I said, I'm going to tap into this other harness on this bike, but what you're going to probably want to do is on this female side, you're going to want to tap into the dark blue. I'll pull this tape so you guys can see it. It's still a dark blue wire, nothing changed. So you guys are going to want to probably pull this tape off and tap into that wire. What you can do is pull a little of the tape back like this, get a little more of that wire exposed, and that's going to be your tail light wire there. We're not going to tap into this one like I said, but that's where you would tap in. And it's going to be the same on this wire as it would be on the one I'm actually going to use. And we're going to use a posi tap connector. So you're going to want to do your dark blue and also your black for ground. So I'm going to put this Y back together since this one's just a little bit different. That way he can retain his lighting on his luggage rack. And I'll go grab the posi taps. Alright, if you guys had never used these posi tap wire connectors before, this has a slot in it. And that's going to go on your power wire. And the other end has a point. And it'll actually pierce the wire and make a connection. It'll just tap into the wire. Then what you can do with the key on, you can check that and make sure it tapped in good, which looks like we did. We are going with our positive wire, so what we do then is we put our positive wire into the other end of that, right? And then that kind of makes connection. And hopefully everything works right. That holds it in tight like that. Boom, no solder, no heat shrink. You'll have your seat over it. You're good to go. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your black wire and you'll do the same thing with the black wire. Who knew all those years of putting in car stereos and stuff when I was a teenager would come in handy when I started working on motorcycles. Now all we're going to do is test it, and voila, it works. Trust me, I'm just as surprised as you are. Wiring can sometimes get a little crazy, but this is just 2 wires, and it's not hard at all. If you have any wiring experience whatsoever, you'll be able to pull this off, no problem. And like the directions say, if you're not sure you can pull it off, maybe don't risk it. The last thing you want to do is mess up the wiring on your bike. So if you're not 100% comfortable doing it, just take it to somebody that can do it for you It shouldn't be very much to have it done because it's, like I said, it's only 2 wires. Super easy job to do. It's a little involved as far as taking some panels off and stuff like that, but as you saw, that's super easy to do. The hardest part was figuring out which wire to use. That's pretty much spelled out in the instructions. And short of chopping off the zip ties and putting the bike back together, it's pretty much done. I'm gonna do that real quick. Don't leave me. I'll show you the final product. I'm gonna let the sun go down and we'll see what it looks like in the dark. All right, I promised you guys a quick review, so here it is. Quality-wise, it's a Ciro product. There's a reason I use a lot of Ciro products, and that's because the quality is always good. The chrome is good on it. It's really smooth. The flagpole itself, the metal is very sturdy. There's no flexing when you're going down the road. The flag itself is attached tightly inside the mount. I know if you get like a cheaper option of this, a lot of times the flag just falls out of the mount and somewhere on the highway. So that's definitely not going to be an issue on this one. The LED lighting is really good, as you can see here. It's got a nice white blue tone to it, so it looks really good. And one thing I did notice when I was riding it around is the flag doesn't blow around a lot. One of the concerns I had when I was putting it on was, if you're going down the interstate at 75 mile an hour or whatever you're doing, will the flag get tattered over time? And there's not a lot of airflow right there, so it kind of just hangs like this. It just kind of floats back and forth and doesn't really stand out straight, which is great for longevity. But in the event where it's really windy or something and it is picking up a lot of wind, the seams are really good on the flag, so it's definitely going to hold together well. So overall, I think it's a really good product. They use stainless steel hardware. The wiring had a nice sheathing on it. So if you're thinking about getting a flag for your bike, this is definitely the one to pick up. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to get a discount on that today through June 20th, 2021, today, the release of this video, if you're watching it on the day it came out, which hopefully you are if you hit the bell, you can get 10% off by using the code FREEDOM. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and definitely go pick one of these up if you're looking at getting one, and we'll see you next week.